Here we are. We're going. That's awesome. So we're continuing with the theme of how to be okay when it's not okay. That's actually a beautiful theme going on right now. And the angle, there's so many different angles always to talk about things. And the angle I want to share with in this video is probably something that gets talked about quite a bit, and it's how to be okay when it's not okay. Is really recognizing the bigger picture that things are happening because they are happening, but also how much control do we have over it, and how much do we actually impose our will trying to make something change because it's going against our ideas of what's right or wrong. We have the judgments. Those judgments are inside our belief systems, our head. And that limitation isn't allowing us to see something bigger or something more magical, because it's often in hindsight that we look back on our lives and we realize that some of the greatest changes in our lives or most dramatic things that happened in our lives were actually setting us up on a different direction for something very beautiful that came from it. And so when you're going through those T intersections or changes, they might not always be what we want them to be, or we might be judging them because the change is happening. Like, why is it changing? Why is this not going the way it used to go or was going? And because we're not seeing the bigger picture, which is what's going to be unfolding because of this change of direction, we are caught up in that resistance. We're caught up in this idea of what we believe is right because it's coming from our ideas and our graspiness even to what has been happening or the way things have always been, And so then the idea of change rattles us or disturbs us because we can't see what's going to happen. And so this fear of the next footsteps or stepping out in new directions into the great unknown is something that we don't embrace, that we resist because it's unfamiliar territory. The familiar territory was behind us and is being shaken and changed, being let go of. And however it's worded, like we evolve, we step into a greater path, or I think what's being thrown around at the moment too is humanity's moving up into the fifth dimension or the love dimension, things like that. So there's always ways of understanding or allowing ourselves to move through the change. So regardless of what titles we put on it to give ourselves the ability to accept it, it really comes back down to my will versus the divine will. That's one way of looking at it, because the divine will is way greater without the limitations. And because I have limitations, I'm not able to see it. That's one way of looking at it. Or the other way of looking at it is to see our own resistance. And when we resist things, we actually create the energy. We create the energy that there's a problem. We don't like it. We don't want it. There's a problem. Life's not okay. We've actually created that idea. And we can argue that and we can defend it, but the truth is it's still our own idea. It's still our own opinion. Even when it comes to things which appear to be hurting people, the people that actually are the ones going through it or the ones being hurt, they sometimes can move on and cope or embrace life quicker than those who simply hear about it. Because when you hear about it, you're not actually pushed or motivated or moved to actually do something to embrace the change. And so when you hear about it, you just think about it, and then you got an opinion, and then your opinion's held on to for hours, days, weeks, months, years, sometimes for years. And those opinions can actually cause more damage or upsetting energy or negative energy or in-depth beliefs than the actual person that went through the situation, because they faced it, let go, moved on, addressed what they needed to address, and then it was done. Like, well, that was a day ago. What are you talking about? That was a month ago. Why are you still talking about this? That was a year ago. Why are you upset about this still? It's like a year ago. So that's what I mean about us recognizing ideas and how strong we want to hold on to them and make them our reality. Then suddenly that is our reality and that is our truth. That is what happened, and that is what happened to people, and that is the bad things in life is not okay. Back to the original topic of this talk. And so I think the beautiful thing about meditation is you get to see your thoughts. You get to see what you think about. You get to see what you hold on to as your reality. And you might not have known that to be a thought before or an idea. You might have really, really just kind of lived a life that this is the way it is. This is what I've been taught. This is the truth. Everyone knows that, so it is the truth. And so there's never been this motivation or awareness to actually surrender that, have the willingness to let go of that, to just be open to the possibility that there's something else, and that any type of limitation can be then invited to be expanded or to become unlimited, right? What's super funny about that is it leaves everything up in the air. What actually is God's will versus my will? Which one's God? Is it just the easy way out? Is that just a cop out? Is it just because this is what I think and everyone's telling me it's a limit, that their way is God's will because it's against my will? Gosh, you can polarize everything. You can make everything about being right or wrong, good or bad, left or right, limited me and expanded you, limited you and expanded me. And it kind of comes back to, I don't know, who are you? I think the greatest thing for this talk is that if you know that you're okay, that right now you're okay, then you might start to see that even the idea that the world's not okay or it's not okay, whatever it is, it's perhaps even a projection of time, location, assumptions, little judgments that kind of niggle away and become distressing. And that to actually find that beautiful peace within yourself and just move your attention back into that. If you have a meditation practice, use your meditation. If you don't have one, just to really rest into this moment. What does that even mean? Let yourself stop thinking and just be absolutely here, present to what is in your experiencing of now. What's in this room? What's in this moment? And then you realize you actually have to think to leave this room, to leave this moment. Like what's happening outside and what's happening down the letterbox and what I said yesterday. You actually have to leave this moment to consider that. It's not actually in your experiencing right now. Meditation is helping us to come back to this moment, to now, to experiencing now. Why? Because this entire talk has been about the ideas that we have that things aren't okay, and how much of our views on ourselves, on the world, on people around us, on the situations of things, anythings, are ideas or views. And views have different angles and different depth of opinions, different reasoning for right and wrong, depending on what you've been told, what you feel, what your filters gave you, allowed you to see, allowed you to hear, allowed you to recall. And it's not actually the experiencing of now. Because in the experiencing of now, it doesn't exist, which doesn't devalue it. But if you want happiness and peace, this is the place where it does exist, in this experiencing of now. And so, as people who live in this world and feel and think and have ideas and have concepts and have opinions and have been taught all our childhood years to act certain ways and believe certain things, we move in and out of this desire to be ourselves, which is everything we've learned, the accumulation of all those years, and this desire to be free and open and resting in this moment, experiencing that happiness. And I think the challenge is simply allowing that balance to be okay. It's okay. And then I think also the challenge is to listen to those voices and try and decipher which one is okay to listen to and which one is giving you the stress, the anxiety, the problems. And as you start to investigate that and watch it and be curious for it, you'll be on your own journey. The opinions seem to lose strength, even though they might still be there, but they're not something you'll fight for, perhaps. And this happiness just seems to develop on its own accord. Because if you're not fighting so strongly or worried so much, what's left when that worry falls away? There's such a beautiful peace for us to live in. It has nothing to do with what anyone else is doing, what they're thinking, how they react to you or act to you. It's kind of like letting us all just live, get on with it, and putting more desire into your own freedom, into your own happiness. And just seeing that the living experience of your ongoing happiness is sourced within you, not sourced through your thinking or your ideas. It's not an accumulation of who you've been and what you've been taught or been doing. It's inside of you, regardless of who you are and what you know. It's there regardless of how many friends you have and what they're saying or doing with you. And it's so freeing because then it's not up to anyone else. They don't give it to you. Some levels of happiness is, of course, through community, through friendships, through interactions. But the source of this unending, untainted, the opposite of grasping, unowned happiness, that's yours. That's yours. That's you. Get to know that. That's worth everything. I've got some notifications coming on and I don't know if you can hear it. I forgot to put it all on sleep mode. And of course, everyone's texting me right when I'm doing a recording. So funny. I think that's long enough for right now anyway. Enjoy discovering this moment. And that's where you discover that even if you feel things aren't okay or the people are telling you things aren't okay, you can be okay. Just as you are.